I'm live. How cool is that? Good evening. This is Candia Sanders. I hope you're having a great night. I wanted to change it up a little bit tonight and do something a little bit different. I had a bunch of questions from last week's live session, and I thought I would operate from those tonight because there were some really great, insightful questions about the topics that we had. I will share a little bit about those when I get into the topic. But before I do, I want to send out a happy Monday to everyone. I know there are a lot of people out there that are feeling the ups and downs of the energy that we are dealing with now. I think there's a lot of oppressive energy from around the globe that is impacting all of us and how we are feeling. I don't know about you, but it definitely is me. It's easy to get angry. For some, they are getting depressed. There are those, I got some notices today of different ones that have COVID, some that have died. I, of course, always ask about secondary conditions because I just don't always believe the stories that we've been told. My aunt had stomach cancer, was nearly 90, and they said she died of COVID. So I always question the narrative. So I think this is very important, and I want to, before we begin, of course, into the Q&A tonight. I've been doing this every week, and I think it's really fun to do. Is I choose a card from my crystal deck to share the energy for the next week. I think it corresponds very nicely with what is going on astrologically. On the 14th of this month, coming up very soon, we have a new moon, and we also have a complete full solar eclipse. How exciting is that? What does that mean? That means new beginnings as well as explosions of uncertainties, of being Dorothy going from Kansas to the Wizard of Oz. So if you find yourself in one place and all of a sudden displaced the next, that's why. So in addition to that, I've got tonight's crystal tonight is gold with quartz. It's a very beautiful stone. And I'm such a believer in the rock elementals or the gem elementals that help support us. They are literally the minerals that create the essence of our bodies. They create the essence of this planet. So the mineral kingdom is very, very important to our expansion and our evolution. They are a two-dimensional realm, and they, like all the other levels, it's just a vital I'm not even saying that well, a vital importance to our expansion, as are the trees, the plants, the animals, as are we. So minerals are very, very insightful. So tonight is gold with quartz. Is about physically being grounded. And I find that so many people are not grounded today due to anxiety, due to depression. So it's very important to stay grounded. Grounded means what? Being connected to nature, having plants in your office if you're not outside enough, eating green foods, that's also important. Rocks in your pockets, pennies between your mattresses, and a big rock underneath your bed. And the reason is, our houses that have electricity need copper to ground the wiring in the house. Otherwise, we lose our we lose our light. We lose our refrigerators. We lose our connections. The same is true with our bodies. So grounding is very important. So if you're feeling a little unsettled and upside down, a little nervous, grounding is really important. Gold with quartz is also about abstract ideas and inspirations. This also corresponds with the solar eclipse that's coming up, which is also very expansive and enlightening and really activates your psychic powers, your intuition. So my invitation to all of you is to really step into your gut, combined with your heart, combined with your third eye, and trust those instincts that are coming your direction. Trust the signals, because we are getting so much misinformation out there. I got into another debate, of course, on Facebook. God, I hate that platform, sorry. However, I feel that's still a way to get information out, that the information, the abstract information, is so essential, and trusting our instincts, because we are being bombarded by so much falsehood, so many lies, that is so important to trust your instincts. So with that, use this gold with quartz, as well as connecting in with the solar eclipse this next week. So tap into that on the 14th. Yeah, I think it's 13th, 14th, yes. The new moon and the solar eclipse. Really take time to do a meditation, do a visualization of what it is that you would like to see, not only in your life, but in the world. I think this is really important. So I'm going to see if this is important to read. I did not read this. I always draw these ahead of time. Don't look, don't check, just trust. And it says, several wonderful ideas and inspirations are filtering through your physical reality. This is really good to hear because there's so much nonsense going on. We need to hear that we have wonderful ideas and inspirations that are still filtering through the ethers. Very important. These ideas and inspirations, which stem from your soul, my soul, our souls, will help us manifest many of the things our hearts have for so long desired. Well, I don't know about you. My desire is that we move through this nonsense and that we create this timeline, this higher dimensional realm where we have sovereignty for all, that we have a different truth than what we have going on right now. Over the coming days, your intuition, our intuition, will be strong, and you will have a greater sense of the universal spirit that flows through all things. Through this, a newfound sense of joy and wonder emerges, one which transforms our lives. Give thanks for this blessing and allow it to inspire and illuminate your heart, our hearts and minds. Our ideas and inspirations are divinely guided, so trust them. So how great is that? Again, this totally aligns with the solar energies that we are being infiltrated with, bombarded with, energized with. So utilize this. Tap into your intuition. Great time to do this. So this is a very positive thing. And I also want to share, hold on a second, I got to clear off my glasses with that light glaring at me. I don't see very well, but I want to be able to read my questions that I got some from the listeners. I had this great inspiration as to what it is that we are dealing with right now. This is a great visual for what it is that we have to step beyond, that we have to move beyond. I'm trying to get the right words to describe this. We don't really do this anymore, but it's such a great visual. And I of course, I'm dating myself. But as a kid, if you're driving at night, we had AM radio. I mean, it wasn't until much later that we had FM in the car. So I had AM radio, and you're driving out on a road, which I've always been a driver. So I'm driving, and you're in the car, and you have one station, all of a sudden it goes, and then you keep going on the radio, and it goes. This is where we are right now. We are in disconnection. None of our towers are lining up with the frequencies that we are putting out. We are in this no man's land as we are leaving the end of this 26,000 year cycle and moving into the next, as we move into what I would call the Aquarian cycle, which is a 2,160 year cycle. We are being anchored in Aquarius 100% on the 21st of this month when we have the solstice. We also have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. It's such an amazing portal right now. And so anchoring into this Aquarian energy, I feel by then we will have, remember that radio, and then all of a sudden we're driving out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of Montana, out woods, right? And all of a sudden you hear, I'm dating myself, Art Bell. Art Bell used to be on what is now Coast to Coast with George Norrie. But back in the day, it was good old Art Bell. Art Bell brought us inspiration, psychic insights, information on ETs, anything that was considered sci-fi and or fantasy, Art Bell talked about. This is the world, folks, that we are in and we are moving into. So imagine when you are dealing with the nonsense out there, that we are just out on that night drive. The sky is beautiful. The stars are twinkling. You can smell the scent of the trees in the windows because your windows are down, and you're trying to find that station. You're still driving, no station, and all of a sudden, bingo, we have one that lights up, one that we can connect into, one that we can hear, and that's this next frequency that we are reaching into. It's the next level of expansion. And as we do this, when we hit that next, that station, that frequency, that's when the revealing will finally start to happen. The revelation, next year is the revealing of truths and hidden stories that have been on the planet for centuries, literally centuries, for a very long time, maybe millennial. I mean, we go back into the whole ET thing, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight. And so with that being said, if you can, with me, we all visualize this, that radio station that we're in the static right now. We're just in the static. Doesn't mean there's not a station out there that we're going to dial in, that we're going to connect into. When you do this, and again, there are only, a few of us here tonight. At this moment, there will be more. We're putting out that station beam out there. We're going to attract more people so that we can draw in this energy to say, okay, we're here to shift things. So I'm just checking who we've got. We've got Sheila, we've got Chrissy, we've got Yelena, how nice. We've got somebody new, Tracy, Bonnie. Bonnie is here. She's on the road. I love this. So think about it. Bonnie's a perfect example. She's on the road. She's driving, and she can't pick up anything on her radio station. Just think about old Art Bell. If you're not familiar with Art Bell, look him up. He was fantastic. So put that into our consciousness that soon, within a very short amount of time, today being the 7th, and we only have a few days, week or two, to the 21st. This to me is the biggest moment of the year, actually. I remember when these conjunctions were first talked about. There was one in June, and then this one was brought up, and they did a global meditation. There's also, I know, a global meditation happening on the 21st. You can find them all over the internet. Tap into those, create your own. I did a newsletter. I put out a visualization for those who needed something just to tap into. And as you do any of your exercises, meditations, visualizations, you name it, think about that radio. And then as you get ready to be quiet, just tap in and say, there it is. There's our station. There it is. That is our landing point. This is where we are going. This is why we're heading, no matter what the news is saying, okay? So again, just remember that radio station. Put that into your consciousness. We landed on the station. Art Bell, love him, but that's where we're going in 2021. Because if you think about what Art Bell represented, he represented all the alternative thinking, which again is what we're going to talk about tonight. We already are, but I want to go into the questions. And so I think he was a perfect person to land on, a perfect station to land on for this 2021 entry that we're heading into. For me, in so many ways, that when we hit the 21st, we're already heading into a new year. Back in, don't ask me which century, I normally have this, but, and I can't remember which pope it was. Pope Gregory, maybe? I'll have to check my history. You guys might know better than I do. Right off the hand. Hi, Shelley. Nice to see you. Is that the calendar was changed. We got rid of, we used to have 13 months. We got rid of a whole month. We got rid of, we totally redistributed the calendar. Thank you to the Pope. And when we did that, we lost an astrological sign, and it just shifted everything. And so we have this set date now in our consciousness that the 1st happens to be the beginning of the new year. My feeling, though, that is that the 21st, being the shortest day, the day of the shortest shadows, is the beginning of the next year, the next cycle, because the 1st is just an arbitrary date that they randomly came up with. So anyway, things to think about, okay, that radio station. So now, questions from the floor, which are really great questions, I just have to say. So pardon me, I've got to read these because I didn't remember. I just wrote them down, so I had them. And so last week we talked about soul rays of different political figures. Soul rays are frequencies like astrological signs, our numerology. We can even go into our 16 personality test out of the Myers-Briggs test out of the 80s that can then talk to our personalities. But soul rays are a frequency that we choose through our growth, through our expansion, through lifetimes. Our hearts, our souls start to vibrate at those levels, and then we bring those into a lifetime so that we can learn from them. So we talked about soul rays and the frequencies of the different political leaders out there and why they are doing the corrupt, nefarious things that they are. So you can go back and look at or listen to last week's hour. So anyway, from that we got this question: do ETs, extraterrestrials, have soul rays. And I would say that extraterrestrials, beings from other planets, and there are, I don't know, it's crazy. It's something like 300 trillion planets in our galaxy, just in our galaxy, that can house life. I mean, something insane, right? That not all of these different ones out there would have levels of expansion. So yes, from my view, even though they're not in what I would call our direct physical form, even though, with that said, there are a lot of planets out there that do have what is called the atom cadmium, this body, and so they also are in evolutionary expansion. So I feel, from my perspective, you don't have to believe anything I say. You have to go within your heart and see if it feels true to you. If it does, fantastic. If it doesn't, throw it out. I have no attachment to that. I'm only speaking from my perspective and from my own personal intuition. So I think it's a great question, and I would say yes, that they do, based on where they are and where they are in the dimensional levels. So yes. Now, I got to go through this. Another ET question. We're going to stay on different topics tonight, and then I'll switch to the next topic. So I'm going to stick with the ETs right now. Are ETs from different planets, and are they three-dimensional frequency planets, and do they have soul rays? So we answered the soul rays, and so ETs are definitely from different planets. We as human beings have supposedly 22 strands of DNA, and yes, there is equipment that can determine this. Speaking of that for just a second, I have to segue, you know me, that what was that? That 123 and me did that DNA test. Supposedly they were collecting DNA. Don't you love that? They're collecting our DNA and putting it into a database. Now why? I don't know. Is it to clone us? I don't know. However, if you get into it, the owner of 123andMe is connected in the upper echelons of the elite, so it gets really kind of creepy. So anyway, back to the question. Of course, you know me, I have to segue for just a second. Back to ETs on this planet. I think we have been infiltrated throughout the millennia by different ones, and how many of them are out there, I couldn't tell you. I mean, there are different books out there, and there are different ones that have speculation. I think the best people to talk to are what I would call the whistleblowers from the secret space program. You can look up Corey Goode. You can look up Emery Smith. Sometimes, you know, they've been panned by people. I mean, God, I get hammered myself, and I'm not even that controversial. So they've been hit very hard with controversy. But I would recommend that you look them up and then listen with your heart as to what they say. Because honestly, I've listened to them. I've met them both. I've been in their lectures. They're fascinating people. But I can't speak to the numbers, how many are out there. But I do know that, seriously, there are like 300 trillion planets, amazing, that have life. So of those, how many of them are different, are three-dimensional, which is where we are at this point in time as we are moving into fourth dimension. Our Earth, ironically, is at, and has been since the 80s, has been in fourth dimensional frequency. We, as a population, are a bit slow, folks, okay? What is fourth dimension? That's heart level. That's love. All right, I don't know about you, but all I have to do is look at all the blaming and the shaming and the bird flipping and the, you know, the FUs out there to say, I don't think we're quite in the love frequency yet. So as humanity, as a species, have we moved up to that level yet? No. We're moving, yes. And sorry, I'm going to blow some people away. I know a lot of people talk about 5D. We're not. Are you kidding me? 5D is light body, and love only generates love. Sorry, I cannot go there. Doesn't work for me. If it works for you, fantastic, because there are a lot of psychics out there, a lot of new agers out there really promoting the 5D stuff. Okay, that's great. However, if we disconnect from the heart, we're going to have a lot of trouble when we move to this level. So we've got to come through the heart before we get there. And maybe we can accelerate this. However, I've been taught that it's going to be 90,000 years of going through the heart dimension, because that's how long it's going to take us how to love and love completely. So that's just my perspective on that. So great questions. Okay, next one. ET sightings. Do certain people see them? And are others blocked? I think that's really a good question, because there are those who say, God, I've seen him, and then others don't. Now, some of that is perspective and belief. There is a great analogy to this, that when the Europeans started traveling and going around the globe, you know, when they were doing this back in the 13 and 1400s, and yes, we had people long before that, but in our quote-unquote written history at this point in time, when they came over, the natives of Central Oregon and South America, when the ships arrived, they didn't see them because they didn't have that big ship concept in their philosophy, in their thinking, and in their beliefs. So therefore they didn't see them until when the shaman figured it out, had that concept, and shared with everyone that they were large ships. So the same is true, I believe, with a lot of people today with ETs, you know, with the ships. People are not going to see them because they don't have the awareness. They are clouded with chemicals in their mind, from chemtrails to food to toxicity in the water to the telephone to disruption with electromagnetic frequencies. There are so many things that can disrupt our thinking, right? And our vision. You know, sometimes even if I eat the wrong food, as an example, my vision isn't as clear. So it's so important to eat really, really well for your vibration. And when that happens, then your ability to see is going to be that much clearer. So the clearer vision of seeing the other dimensional, higher frequency ships shows up. Now, we tend to think of them as just flying discs. I think they cloak themselves. We see a lot of what the truth is in a lot of the science fiction movies, and the reason that is they've all been given information to disseminate. So there is that level of what ships look like. And then I feel like a friend of mine here in Central Oregon, we look at the clouds that look like ships, and we're going, cloaking devices to make them look like clouds. So I'm thinking, oh, we're being visited. So it's up to you really to see how much you believe and expect. Also, here's one that's really good, is James Gilliland at the the ETs Ranch in Troutdale. So Trout Lake, I was getting mixed up. Trout Lake, Washington. He just calls them in. So what you can do is, if you're in the mood, and just put yourself in that right alignment, make sure you're in your light. Very important. I always talk about being in your light and connected. When you're in this frequency, you can request from your heart to the ETs, extraterrestrials of the higher dimensional levels, right? Very important, to be visible. And then you might see lights flashing in the sky. You might see lights around the mountains. Last summer we were here, of course I was here, but my son was visiting, and he took some photographs from up on top of the buttes that I live nearby, and he captured, we couldn't see him, but he clicked some photos, and you could see streaks going across the sky, and they were not planes. So our digital cameras, our cell phones can pick them up as well. So just start thinking outside the box, because it's not just for specific people. It's about your appreciation, your requests, and your belief. So there we go. Let's see, what's our next question? Okay, is this a great one? ETs, are they involved with the shift and with the government, etc., with nukes? Okay, do they help with the nuclear power? You know, all these people are trigger happy around here. And are they helping with the shift in evolution? That's kind of a multifaceted question, but I'm going to go with the nukes. First of all, probably most of you know this. The ETs, I'm going to call them extraterrestrials, just better than aliens, I don't like that word, is the ETs have definitely helped us keep from nuking ourselves into oblivion. And the reason is, this has been proven, you can go look all this stuff up, is that if we not only blow ourselves up, you know, as a species, we infect all the life forms on this planet, which are all evolving and growing and expanding, which impacts how many dimensional levels, not to mention the solar system itself and all the time frames in the future. So of course other benevolent groups are going to be here to help us, right? To put the kibosh on the nukes. So they have definitely been here, and every time some country has come close, from Russia to Iran to North Korea, maybe even America, I have no idea, they have melted. They have not been able to push the button, and it's because the ETs have come in and shifted that, which is fantastic. When it comes to the shift in consciousness and intuitive expansion and soul progression, we are in what I would call a spiritual battle, and that does include the ET races. There are ET races that are benevolent and kind and gracious and caring, and there are ET races such as the Reptilians. There's a level of Reptilians that we have seen throughout the TV shows, throughout our science fiction, our fantasy shows, that'll look very reptilian, that are very negative. And I was talking to another friend of mine today, another psychic, and she was going, and we were so on the same page that we just didn't believe in evil. We just didn't buy into that package. And it's still hard for me to grasp. However, there is a polarity of good and bad, shadow and light, good and evil, however you want to look at it. I don't want to go to that furthest polarity, because then you draw it in. However, we always have these polarities going on. And so the good guys that are here, the Galactic Federation, and those of the malevolent races, the reptilian forces that I feel are behind the scenes, behind George Soros, behind Rothschilds, behind the elites, behind the cabal, the next level up, that feed off the negativity of this planet, they exist. Unfortunately, I am fortunate I have not seen any of them directly. I have seen them intuitively. I have not seen one in person because I am not in that frequency, and I'm not going to draw them to me. However, I do feel they are impacting the planet, and I do feel they're impacting this what's the word I use for the radio, where we're in static. We're in static right now. They are literally causing disruptions on the internet. There's static going on out there, and they are helping. So yes, we have them on the planet now. They can shapeshift, they can cloak, they can be the body doubles, the clones. They're out there. I'm kind of iffy on the clones. Not that I can't say they exist, but I still am not 100% wrapped around that, because I think a lot of times when people talk about clones, it's just a good, easy cop-out. That's just my feeling on that. So, hold on a second. What I want to do, I want to make sure I've got all the ones that I have done, so that I don't do them again. 2 seconds, I'm sorry. There we go. These are great questions, guys. These are because of you guys, so thank you. And let's see, what's the next one? ET races. Are they supporting us through this shift? Yep, that's another one. So some people, I had several people who had put in questions, so I've got a couple that are repeats, apologies. Again, these are from different people. I love the fact that different questioners are on the same page. This is good for all of us. So, are they supporting us through the shift? And yes, there is a huge Galactic Federation of light. I remember hearing about the Galactic Federation when I was a teenager, because I've been reading, I've been exploring since then. And I remember thinking, how cool is that? I remember when we landed on the moon, I was at church camp. And of course, back in the day, we had this tiny little TV, right, with the big thick and everything. And it was in the mess hall, the food lodge, if you will, the food cabin. And I went in, and the TV was at the far end, and lots of tables. All the kids were outside at that time. And I think I was about one of 6 that was watching the landing on the moon. And I remember thinking, oh, there's just so much more. You know, what am I, 11 at the time? And I'm thinking, there's just so much more. So learning about the Galactic Federation, as an example, just solidified my feelings, my intuition that what we were seeing was just a fraction of the reality. And that's exactly what we're doing too now. We're seeing only a fraction of what's really going on. So, okay, there's another question down. Oh, evil ET species. Yeah, there's another one. Okay. And yeah, we've got them, unfortunately. However, big one right here. If everybody, again, remembers the static and we stay in that high frequency of belief, of seeing what we want, desire, and this is not about hope, because hope is the bridge. We got to get over the bridge. We have to be in belief. So the hope is the bridge, and then when you get on the other side and you believe this is what's going to happen, that's where we all need to be. So if all of us in this chat right now make that happen, and then we share that with the world, we can make huge changes. So that part is really, really good. Okay, so next question. I guess back to that though for a second. By when we focus, we go over the hope bridge and we go over here into belief that the good races, the Galactic Federation, the beings of light, the light workers on the planet, which is you and me and the wanderers from multi-dimensions that have come here to help, we will override the shadow aspect. Because why? Because we're moving to Aquarius, and there are no other options. It's so good. We will not go back to the past. This is truly an amazing time to be alive. So here's another question about ETs, abductions. Are these soul contracts regarding this? Now here's something that's very interesting about abductions. I believe, I've talked to enough people, I've read enough books, I've done enough intuitive work, that I feel that a lot of the abductions, ironically, this might drive you crazy, are actually from our own military. We have had a secret space program since the 60s. Yeah, how's that one for you? And we are literally like 300 years in advance to anything that most people on the planet can even imagine. And so they have had these different kinds of vehicles, vessels, ships, whatever you want to call them, and they have perpetuated that story of abductions to put terror into people, to create fear. Don't we love that? Because it keeps us suppressed. Now, did they experiment on them? Yes. Did they, and have they, are they, I don't know about are they now, did they infiltrate with different blood? Did they do different kinds of things? Absolutely, I believe that to be true. But I also feel that a lot of it, or a lot of them, were conducted by us. Do I also feel that there is a level back to the malevolent ETs? Did they do some of the abductions? Yes, I feel that to be true. However, let's go there for a second. None of these happen really without our consent. Nothing happens without our consent. So the abductions are with souls that have given consent at some point in time, because perhaps they have been incarnated in those other bodies on other planets, because we don't just live in the earthly realms, that they are doing atonement for that. There could be an agreement for an abduction to offer up greater expansion. I mean, there are multitudes of reasons why certain people are and have been abducted, because I do believe that's real. But I don't believe it's all negative, and I do feel that it's never without some kind of agreement. I don't believe that anything happens without some part of us in awareness. So again, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe on me on any of this, but this is just my feelings. Okay, I gotta cross that one out. Okay, let me see if I got all the ETs. I think I got all the ET ones. Okay, let's see, where are we on things? Okay, good. Now, the next topic, I'm trying to think, we've got ETs walk-ins, and I hope Bonnie is still with us. She's from the road. We're going to talk about walk-ins. We're going to talk about reincarnation, and what's the other one? What do we have? Reincarnation. Yeah, reincarnation will be the last one. So walk-ins. A walk-in, now here's one that's very interesting. Well, maybe I should do reincarnation first. It's one of those things. Reincarnation. I'm going to go with reincarnation first. Sorry, I just changed my mind because I'm thinking about the progression. And a walk-in, you have to understand, walk-ins, you have to understand the concept of reincarnation. Now, I know a lot of people know this, a lot of people believe in this, and yet there is a percentage of the population that does not, due to the indoctrination, and I'm sorry I'm going to use that word, of religion, because the early religions all believed in it, and it was taken out of the different works of spiritualism, I'm going to call them that, religious works, due to control. Because if we know that we have the ability to expand and we don't do it through a priest or a cardinal or a bishop or a pope, then we have control, don't we? We have our own life force. We have our own ability to make choices. We get to do Groundhog's Day. That's who we are. However, it was removed on purpose to create this level of sin, to create this level of oppression, to create control. Do I believe in reincarnation? Absolutely. Do I believe that we've had multiple lives? Yes. Do I believe that everybody has different number of lives? Yes. And I also believe that we have lives that are in other realms, right? Meaning, again, like I said, a walk-in, and then I'll get to, no, maybe I'll go to the reincarnation questions before. I keep going on. But I can talk about these topics for hours, but I really want to get to the questions, so I apologize if I'm shifting gears a little bit. Okay. This was a great question. Reincarnation. Okay, reincarnation. Again, the conscious mind can deny it, and again, we've been subjected to a lot of philosophies and beliefs, and we've been told that's what is true. However, if anybody took the time to meditate, to visualize, to be hypnotized, your subconscious mind cannot deny it. It's an irrefutable fact. Your subconscious cannot deny the existence of your soul and the existence of multiple lives. So here's the question. If Trump is the reincarnation of George Patton, which we talked about last week, who was born only 6 months after Patton's death, and we have a 9-month pregnancy, how does this work? That's a fantastic question. We think in these terms in very linear aspects. We are very logical. We're all about time. We're all about the calendar. We're all about, a succession of order, a birth and a death. It's a one-way street. Well, in the bigger context, there is no time. There are no limits. We are limitless, and we have the ability, I gotta take these off, to be in multiple places, to interact, to dive in, to learn, to explore. So with that being said, when George soul, that energy frequency that was his, he goes back into the time-space continuum, and with a direct, sign me up, I want to come back because I want to go through this evolutionary leap in consciousness, and I want to be an integral part of that, he said, sign me up. So he found the right bloodline, he found the right connection. He also, I'm just going off the cuff right now too, is I can tell that Trump has had, whatever verb you want, connections with his family before, so it wasn't a brand new lineage for him. These are souls that he has known. So it was a very logical and specific reason to jump back into this particular grouping. And he came in, again, the soul does not enter into a body. It can go in and out, it can check in, check out, because think about it, if a soul were to hang out in a fetus for 9-10 months, think about that. In the timelessness, when you're out there, you have so much you can be learning instead of just hanging out inside of a bodily form when you've got a whole lifetime ahead. So they check in, they swim around the mom, and that's why, think about this, that as the baby comes out and takes its first breath, that's when they take the date, the time when that baby was born. That's when consciousness, the soul, enters into the body. And then astrologically, that's when life begins. So that soul can come in at any time. So with Trump, he hung out. He didn't need to be hanging out for 9 months. He was out doing what he was supposed to do. George, Dawn, what do you want to call him? That guy, that soul, that frequency, and jump in at the appropriate time so that he could be here right now, just like all of us came here right now to be a part of this great awakening. So again, I know that may be a stretch for some outside the religious context, but if you think about it, if all of us, we all got on a ship right now, all of us, and we headed off to Alpha Centauri, we landed and we picked up on what was going on in that planet and their paradigms and their realities, there would not be the religions that we have on this particular planet, right? It'd be completely different. So if you know that, it's always about expanding beliefs, expanding what you believe in. I constantly am shifting and growing and expanding. What I believed in what I have believed in over the course of my life, a lot of it's very much the same, meaning that I believe in reincarnation, I believe in multiple